and not just in Ukraine either. So here is a report from Sahara Reporters. Weapons from Russia-Ukraine war now slipping into Africa used by terrorists. So this is Muhammadu Buhari, who's the Nigerian president. He's saying, regrettably, the situation in the Sahel and the raging war in Ukraine serve as major sources of weapons and fighters that bolster the ranks of terrorists in the Lake Chad region. He's talking about Boko Haram here. A substantial proportion of the arms and ammunition procured to execute the war in Libya continues to find its way into the Lake Chad region and other parts of Sahel. And he went on to say that that's now being supplemented by weapons from Ukraine as well. But in the meantime, the Financial Times, and as Brian has alluded to this already, but the Financial Times talking about the situation with respect to the so-called hard reality of the West's weapons capacity. And they're saying this: the UK has turned to a third party, which it's declined to identify, to restock its depleted stores of NLAW anti-tank missiles. Now, Brian, I asked you earlier what was meant by third party, and we don't really know, but my question is, first of all, is what's happening here, because you suggested black market, is what's happening that Western weapons are going into Ukraine, a proportion of those are being siphoned off to the black market, some are going to the Sahel and other trouble spots in the world, but some going onto the black market. Could Britain be buying those back off the black market and then reshipping them out to Ukraine again in some kind of circular motion, which is effectively funding terrorism around the world?
I think there's a simple answer to that question, Mike, and yes, it's happening, and there's no question this has started to happen because there are already many very good corroborated reports of weapons from Ukraine appearing in South America, for instance, and we know they're heading out into Syria. Why won't the UK say who it's buying these NLAW anti-tank missiles from? Because it's either a third-rate country and it's too embarrassing for UK to admit that it doesn't have the weapon stocks, or it's gone on to the world weapons market, it's gone to the black market.
Yes. So just to finish off on the Financial Times article, weapon stocks in many European countries are even skimpier. They said when France sent 6 Caesar self-prepared howitzers to Ukraine in October, it could only do so by diverting a Danish order for the high-tech artillery. I mean, this is... I know that during the Cold War, Brian, we were in the position where there was this issue of, how long would you last if the Russians invaded? But we're in worse position now than we were then, it seems.
Yes, although what I will say, Mike, is, during the Cold War period, certainly in the Royal Navy, we watched as weapons stocks declined. So ships were at sea with very, very low levels of weapons on board, and this was a matter of concern for many people, but the policy from above continued. The other thing we've seen in the West is, instead of dispersing ammunition stocks and facilities around the country to protect them, the policy was, no, we've got to save money, they've all got to be brought together. And of course, if you bring the facilities together, you make them an even bigger and easier target. So crazy decisions being made.
David?
Well, the factor behind that, Brian, was who is the threat from? Because if the view was that there are no external threats anymore, everyone's going to get along, we had the end of history. There was no country that was going to be a threat to Western and American hegemony and control. Therefore, you didn't have to distribute your weapon systems. You wanted to put them in one place, because who were you protecting them from? Terrorists and your own population, right? The nasty far right, the nasty Muslims, the nasty fill in blank. Therefore, it was rational if you accept the premises that they were operating under, which is we're never going to have another external war, and all of that is gone from history. That was as naive a position as we're seeing from the Finnish Prime Minister.
There's quite a debate on that one, David, which perhaps we'll keep for another time.
Well, we could talk about it in extra. Let's talk about that in extra. Yeah.